What's up guys, Jeff Cavalier, ATHLEAN-X.com. So ever since I made this video talking about the best splits for building muscle, people have asked me to do a little bit of a deeper dive, right? To talk about more in depth some popular splits. And there's no more popular split these days than this right here, the PPL or push-pull legs. We've been doing this for a long time here at ATHLEAN-X, but it's been done for decades, actually probably centuries. Probably even the cavemen were doing push-pull legs.
Me like push-pull legs.
So it's been around a while, but instead of just focusing on all the good things about it, let's talk about even some of the things that may not be so ideal so that you can make a more informed decision about whether or not push-pull legs is for you, at least at this point in your training. So we talk about push-pull legs, but really that's where my first issue comes in with this. What I'd like to do is actually flip those around. So we have pull-push legs, and there's a very important reason why I want to do that, and I'll get to that in a second. But when we talk about how we would split this out over a training week, we actually have about 4 options. There's really more than that, but the most popular are going to be either a 6-day training split, where you train for 6 consecutive days and an off day at the end, something known as a synchronous split, or we have 3 days in a row with an off day in the middle, and then 3 consecutive days again, which is an asynchronous split. But those are our 2 6-day splits of this training split. We have 3-day options as well, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and something I like to do a lot of times with our athletes is a Monday, Thursday, Friday with a few days in between. Now the big thing that should stick out to you here as the first major pro of a PPL is the flexibility of focus. I can actually do a lot of different things with a PPL split. I can focus on building my strength or hypertrophy with either of these 6-day splits. It gives me a good chance to get appropriate volume, right? Leg training is going to be hit twice a week, and the ability to choose through the exercises I use or the loads I use, the option for going for more strength or hypertrophy, or even both. Down here, the 3-day splits are actually great too, and they also introduce some variability here too, because on these days in between my major strength training workouts, I can work on other things. Again, I can work on my general fitness levels and my conditioning. I could do that without really affecting my strength training workouts. I also have, as I said, the athlete's ability as they approach a season to work on some skill work, or speed, agility, and quickness, right? Or even, again, additional conditioning that's not going to impact their major strength training workouts. So definitely some flexibility of focus. But my big thing, I think, that jumps out at me when we're talking about PPL versus something like, let's say, a bro split or an isolation-based workout approach, is the functional efficiency here. We're talking about shared motor patterns, allowing muscles to work together that actually prefer to work together, rather than trying to isolate them, with the purpose being hypertrophy through focused inefficiency. Right? If I'm doing a standard dumbbell curl, I'm actually trying to keep the forearms out of the movement by bending the wrist slightly backwards to allow the biceps to do more of the work, even though we know that the function of bringing the arm up and closer is something the biceps and forearms will share. In a PPL, we're allowing our body to work that way, so the efficiency is what's allowing us to actually do some really incredible things here. If I look at the exercises that make up the push, pull, and leg workouts, all it does is reflect exactly what I just said. On a push day, you're talking about a bench and an overhead press, where you have the chest, the shoulders, and the triceps, muscles that actually like to collaborate together through their functions to a common shared goal. On a pull day, a deadlift, or a weighted chin. You can take that weighted chin again and compare that to that bicep curl. You can see that I'm allowing my lats to work together with my biceps to get my chin up over that bar. The legs would be comprised of squats and, let's say, maybe even a barbell lunge. But the idea here is when you quickly glimpse at these exercises, because of this collaborative effort, we're actually very easily able to load these exercises and progressively overload these. That works really, really well with building strength as a focus, like I said. But when we go back to how we structure these and lay them out together, this is where sort of that first issue comes, right? The push, pull, and legs, with my focus being right here. It's that adjacency of those two that bothers me, where I want to take it and split this to a pull-push legs. Because what I've done is I've split up these 2 workouts so that I'm not deadlifting and squatting back to back. It's one of the important things I think we should really try to do. That being said, if I were to play that out over the course of the week, that's where you start to see the first issue. It's that these 2 will run up against each other the second time around. And that's where we talk about an impact on recovery through this 6-day split if you even were to set it up this way as pull, push, and legs. If I come in here and look at the actual workout itself, though, I realize quickly that with every con, there's also sometimes an opportunity to do something to turn it into a pro. So you don't have to do the same pull workout every time it comes up. In this workout here, and actually the perfect PPL workout that I put together for you guys on this channel, you're going to want to check out, and I'll link for you at the end of this video, we actually had 2 variations of the pull workout. This is just pull 1. And on the first day, yes, I'm doing my barbell deadlifts, which would be back on that Monday workout. But the second time around, I'm able to change that. I could actually change the deadlift variation, where I can go to one that's not going to be as loaded as heavy, like a snatch grip deadlift, and I could actually change the loading parameter. So instead of doing a 1x5 before, I could actually do a 3x5 with a weight that I could actually handle for 8 reps. So I could decrease the strain and the stress that I'm encountering during the exercise, or I don't even have to do that at all if I don't want to. I can just simply shift my focus to the weighted pull-up as an alternative heavy pull exercise and just increase this volume a little bit if need be. But there's flexibility even within the workouts themselves. You don't always have to stick to the same workout. Matter of fact, I highly encourage you don't. But let's say we go back to this now. Well, the good thing about this is this off day being situated right here at the end of every week. Because what that does is it gives you a predictability of scheduling. And a lot of us that run into trouble with our training splits because we can't stick to them, which is always a big problem. Consistency is key. You want to make sure you have the ability through your schedule, either dictated by family needs or dictated by your work schedule, that you could actually hit your workouts every time they are supposed to be done. Well, this would give you that opportunity. If I were to change this to the off day in between, which is that asynchronous split, well, the first thing is a good thing, more recovery. So that I had the recovery between pull and legs the first time around, and now by putting the off day here, I've introduced another day in between legs and pull. So no matter where we go, legs over here, off day here, I'm always going to have a little bit of additional recovery in between sessions. The downside to this is that we actually have that rotating off day. So this could be a little challenging for those people that have a very fixed schedule and wind up having to have their workouts always moving. What's going to happen is the pull day that was scheduled for week 1 on Monday is now going to move to week 2. And then from there it's going to move to Wednesday on week 3, and then to Thursday on week 4. So if your schedule doesn't allow for that, you might run into some trouble here, although this would be a better version. Now, if we're looking at these 2 splits here, you can see that recovery is actually built into this split. One of the biggest cons that people point to is that they don't think this is a good split for maximizing recovery, and I tend to disagree. Let's say I have a workout here, a push workout, right? In between push workouts on this asynchronous split, I have 1, 2, and 3 off days before I come back and hit push again. Right? Even if I'm doing the synchronous split and I have my push day here, I have 1, 2, and I'm back on the 3rd day. That's a good amount of recovery, especially when you're training 6 days a week, to build in to what you're doing to allow yourself to be ready for every workout. That being said, even if you still had some issues here, you were still, let's say, run down on push day. Let's take an example, push workout. On push day, you had some added desire to build up your triceps. So you did some additional tricep focused work at the end, which is an option that a lot of people choose to do. Another pro, by the way, easily built into this workout. If you did this on the first push day, and you came back and you were sore, your triceps were sore, and you were worried about your recovery, well, you could do a few things right off the bat. Number 1, you're not going to do any direct tricep work here. You're going to shift the exercises and swap them out. And the first thing I might do is pull in a corrective exercise instead. And the thing I would actually recommend is a face pull. And I understand a pull on push day is maybe not what you would necessarily jump to. But first of all, there's always room for face pulls. And secondly, I actually particularly like doing pulling-based corrective exercises on pushing days, because we get so much of that pushing focus, it helps to sort of counterbalance that. So you could put a different exercise in here. If you wanted to do something different than the triceps here, you could do another chest-focused exercise or even a shoulder-focused exercise that just didn't have the additional contribution of the triceps or as much of a contribution of the triceps. So instead of doing a push-up, here, what you do maybe is a crossover, right? To minimize the tricep contribution, realizing that you're already a little bit run down. Same thing here, if I wanted to make it a shoulder exercise, instead of doing some other pressing variation, I'd just do another front raise, right? Minimizing the tricep contribution. So there are even ways that I can work that in without having that be a problem. On the 3-day splits here, again, I talked about the main benefit being having the ability to easily schedule in additional things that we can do to increase our overall fitness level. On a perfect 3-day split here, you can introduce conditioning on these days here. And I'm talking about overall conditioning that's just meant to increase your heart rate, improve your endurance. That's not going to impact negatively your workout in the middle. Because here it doesn't necessarily matter, by the way. If you set this up as push, pull, and legs, or as push, legs, and pull, the order isn't really affected here. because we have that off day in between. But if you had a leg day here and you were surrounding it with conditioning work, you'd want that conditioning work to be stuff that's not necessarily eccentrically loaded, right? That's not going to overtax you. So jump rope, sled pushing, that doesn't leave you sore for the next day. As a matter of fact, one of the best benefits, even if you had a leg day in the middle here, is a flush-based conditioning to follow it. So it's going to actually help you to recover from your leg workouts. So that's the main focus. But I mentioned here, when we're trying to train athletes, particularly as they approach their season, you still have to leave room for their skill work. You still have to leave room for them to hit in the cages or field ground balls from my baseball past, right? You need to have opportunities for them to work on speed, agility, and quickness. We have plenty of flexibility in here, and you're going to see we can actually insulate the workout here. So I would, in this case, make sure this is, once again, pull, make sure this is legs, and make sure this is push. And you'll see that from our own program, All American Muscle, we do just that. We have a pull, and then legs and push. And the reason why we do that is for the focus of trying to insulate these leg days from the other work. So I proceed it with a rest day after doing my speed work on Tuesday, and then I come back with a push-focused strength training workout. So I'm insulating that leg work. I'm not impacting that negatively. I'm not taking a risk of impacting my leg training or my strength training for my legs by butting that up against any type of focused conditioning work. That could be, leg heavy. So this is really a nice split. But really when we're talking about PPL, there's a few other general problems that people want to talk about, like the cons that people point to oftentimes I think we need to address. The first is people say it's only 3 days a week. Well, it's obviously not. I just gave you 2 options for 6-day splits here. This one or this one. They'll then say that, well, you're doing 2 days of upper for only 1 day of lower. Well, again, when you look at the focus of those days, you actually aren't doing that either. You're actually focusing on agonistic muscles that like to pull and agonistic muscles that like to push, and then legs. So you have 3 major focuses that each get done 2 times a week. So there really is no disparity here. And plus, when we consider the fact that we're actually deadlifting on pull day, I think that really counters that argument too. The next thing people will talk about is that it's harder to incorporate intensity techniques when you're doing a push-pull legs. I don't see that. As a matter of fact, I think you could easily incorporate intensity techniques. If you wanted to, you could do eccentrically focused exercises on, let's say, pull day, right? Slow eccentrics on a weighted pull-up or on a lat pull-down, and easily come back because, again, you've got plenty of off days in between to allow you to do that. Whereas if you were doing a total body split, that would become a lot more challenging because now you're looking at Monday, Wednesday, Friday, say, for 3 total body workouts. Anything that I do on Monday with an eccentric focus that leaves me too sore for Wednesday's workout could negatively impact my ability to perform that workout. You're getting much more flexibility built in here, so I don't really agree with that point. And then the final thing is they'll say, well, if you have to address your weak points, like I pointed out before with tricep focus exercises at the end of that push workout, well, it's just going to increase your workout length. Okay, fair point. In other words, in order to add a couple exercises there, you're going to add to your workout length. If I was following a bro split, let's say chest and then back, and then let's say shoulders, and then I wanted to come in and do an additional chest workout because I want to work on a weak point of chest, you're not necessarily increasing workout length. You're just sticking another chest workout into the overall plan, which is just going to extend that training week out, but you're not increasing the length of any particular workout. Fair point. But again, how much are you really impacting that workout by just adding a couple exercises to the end of your push workout in the case of the triceps? So guys, when we talk about all this together, is the push-pull leg split a good split? It absolutely is. There's a lot of benefits to the workout split. You're talking about the flexibility of focus, namely, the ability to follow it in either a schedule that works with your own schedule or one that is more flexible if you don't have a rigid schedule. The opportunity to be more than just a strength training athlete or a hypertrophy focused person and do athletic training as well. There's so much variability built into this, and most of all, that recovery built into whatever variation of this you do is really one of the main elements that's going to drive your success by following this split. Now, is it the only split? Of course not. There's so many more splits out there, guys. If you want me to cover more of them, make sure you leave your comments below, and I will do that in a future video here. If you're looking for this split, actually, we build it into many of our ATHLEAN-X programs, but it's in our All-American Muscle program available over at ATHLEAN-X.com. If you found the video helpful, make sure you leave your comments and thumbs up below. Again, if you want me to do more, make sure you tell me below. And also, guys, if you haven't done so, make sure you click subscribe, turn on notifications so you never miss a new video when we put one out. All right, guys, see you soon.